Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. If you are looking at the European tech tree, well, it's called the European tech tree, but let's be honest, it's the Swedish tech tree, because most of the ships in here, not all of them, but most of them are Swedish. This is about to change. There is a new branch coming out on this tech tree, and they are going to be somewhat more pan-European. So I have no clue when these ships are coming out, but they're tech tree ships, and more free ships is always good. So let's take a look at what this mixed bag of new ships is going to look like. The whole thing starts out with, I believe, a Turkish ship at tier 5, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's an I-class, so that's a British destroyer. But what's more interesting are the ship skills, obviously. And we already see a pattern. We are getting 2 engine boosts and a smoke screen. That's a smoke 1. Just a regular smoke, not a fuel smoke, not a crawling smoke, none of the fancy ones. Just a good old school, make a smoke screen and sit in it smoke screen. Then at tier 6, we have a Norwegian ship with the Stord. And that gets an additional smoke screen. But given that it's an S-class, it's probably once again something British. Yeah, you can see that on the guns. 120 millimeter 45 quick firing Mark 9. That's a British gun. Then at tier 7, and this is the ship we're going to be trying out later, we have the Grom, the sister ship of the Błyskawice. A Polish design, and for a change, not something that the Brits made. In terms of ship skills, we start seeing the radar, which is something we also have on the other European destroyers. So at least that is somewhat consistent. Just that these things are starting to get smoke screens. Then at tier 8, we have the Split, and that's Le Fantasque, but sailing under Yugoslavian flag with a different set of guns. So that's somewhat in. So we've got Skoda guns, which is interesting. So Czech produced, and that's something to check out. Pun intended. Then we have a Greek destroyer, and yeah, by the way, don't look at the flags. The flags are all wonky. This is again something we'll have to. How am I put this? We'll send a friendly reminder that especially people from countries with somewhat smaller navies often feel a bit underrepresented, and it really, really sucks if you're not putting their flag on the ships that they're actually having. I don't know what that flag is, but this thing is a Greek destroyer, the Lambros Katsonis, and it came, I believe it was it supposed to be an Italian? Yeah, it was supposed to be an Italian ship. So again, something with interesting guns and with an additional radar. And then at tier 10, we have the Gdansk, which is obviously once again a Polish ship. And we have the same set of ship skills, just with an additional engine boost. So in general, we've got engine boosts, smoke screens, and radar. There's another thing that's really, and let's actually switch over to the Grom now. There's something else that is something somewhat interesting about the ships. Let's go to a comparison. And for the obvious reason, we're going to be taking a look at the Grom and the Błyskawice, because that's their sister ships. So Błyskawice gets 2 smokes, 3 engine boosts. Grom gets an extra radar. The hulls are relatively similar. The speed is relatively similar, but the Grom is significantly more maneuverable than the Błyskawice, although not quite as good on the engines. The guns are, for all intents and purposes, the same set of Bofors. We get 7 guns. So we do have a, I think a single forward and a super firing turret, plus 2 twins aft. So 3 guns forward, 4 guns aft. But you may, the eagle-eyed among you may have noticed that these ships can't fire armor piercing. So that's a thing. But in return, we get better range and a faster reload. The torpedoes do a bit more damage, have the same reload, but don't quite have the same range and speed as on the Bliskovice. And the AA is, for all intents and purposes, completely absent. So how does the Grom then compare to the Skåne, the existing tech tree ship? Now, obviously, the Skåne, in commonality with the rest of the Swedish branch of the line, and that's what we're going to call it, has also engine boosts, has also radar, but also gets the defensive AA and an extra heel, which is not something you get on the new line. In return, the Grom is significantly faster than the Skåne, obviously has a bit more firepower on the guns, but does not actually fire armor-piercing shells. And again, the torpedoes are doing a little bit more damage, but the range and speed are not quite there. And the AA is completely absent from these ships. So this is something you're going to notice going forward. So even if we look at the Gdansk, and if we were to throw her into the comparison here, which obviously just to see how things evolve, but because we're looking at a tier 10 versus tier 7. But the Gdansk is a fast ship and has no armor-piercing shells. The torpedoes are starting to have a bit of range, but the AA is, well, kind of not there. She only has small caliber for 2.7 kilometers. It's not terrible with 200 and 2.7, but with a cruiser level of surface detection, that's a completely different story. So not AA ships. In return, we get smoke screens and pure HE ships, which is also quite interesting. And at the same time, we obviously have the fast, low damage, high flooding chance torpedoes, but we don't get the range that we get on the Swedish line, presumably to compensate for the fact that we have smoke screens. So, we can just get closer, smoke up, and torpedo from there. Not quite working that well, but we'll see about that. But anyway, so how can we set these things up? Well, you get the choice between, and that's actually an interesting choice, because I was kind of keen to get the 3% ship speed, but at the same time, with 7 guns on these things and pure HE, you're probably going to be doing a lot of damage with the guns. So having the 3% reload in is not a bad thing to do. The historical camo is just your standard thing. Gives you main battery firing, torpedo range, traverse and surface detection, all very good things that you want to have. I have played a bit with the main battery mod 2, but the turrets are a bit fragile, and obviously the turret traverse at tier 7 isn't the greatest. So I'm actually switching to main battery mod 1. Definitely propulsion in slot 2, because the engines on these ships are not the greatest, and they can be a bit sluggish to get off the ground. So be very careful if you're trying to play with a throttle and trying to dodge shells. They're not nearly as agile as say at least not this one, as say like a British destroyer or something similar. And obviously concealment in slot 3, although that might change in the higher tiers, but in general, I think concealment is a safe choice for destroyers. Now, the other interesting question, we do have one legendary commander, and he's Polish. And we now start actually seeing a handful of Polish ships, like the Grom. So, Jerzy Słowski, does he actually fit? Well, the extra radar does work. We don't need the sonar or the air defense, because we get neither of them. The Air Defense Exploit Plus is obviously useless because we don't get the defensive AA. The Daredevil Plus is a good skill to have on these things. So is the Engine Overload, and so is the his special radar skill. In general, I wouldn't have used IFHE, but instead, especially that these things have some large caliber guns, because some of them are Italian and French designs, but you don't get AP shells, so you might as well not bother. And the Giant Hunter Plus for more torpedo damage is nice, but these torpedoes don't do a huge amount of damage, so it doesn't make a massive difference. It's just that nothing else makes sense in this tier for destroyers. So that's kind of, I think the key skills here are the extra radar charge, the radar duration, and the engine overload, with Daredevil Plus being a nice bonus. And in that he kind of matches still, but it'd sort of be nice if we could get a special commander who maybe gets, instead of the Def AA and the Battlefield Support Plus, keep that one, but trade the Defensive AA for Mistweaver or for Exploit Weakness Plus, because you're really playing with fire here. That's sort of the idea. So there would be a couple of options that we could get for another legendary commander, if that is ever on the table, or maybe an epic commander or something like that. Anyway, so I've been going out and testing the Grom a bit, and just to get a feel for how this thing behaves. And yeah, there you see it in the front. Let me just zoom in a bit here. We've got the single turret forward, and then the twin turret super firing. And then we've got the other two twins in the rear. So there's that setup for you. Anyway, 2 games, one with the regular, one with the premium consumables, legendary commander, historical camo, and everything. First round, bottom tier, base capture and encounter. There's a carrier, it's a Pobeda on the enemy team, but we have one ourselves, so that probably equals itself out. Double Amagi, North Carolina, a D7 Provincian, a Bliskavice, so the premium version of me, and a Mayhem on the enemy team. So usually if you're in a carrier and you see a European destroyer, you may kind of go, okay, well, I'll stay away from that. The new line, not quite. Especially the mid tiers have a relatively pitiful AA. But other than that, if you're seeing one of these things, generally, yeah, and we only have HE, can't switch to armor piercing. Generally, fast torpedo flood spam is to be expected, and if you see them shooting HE at you in a destroyer and you're like, what kind of noob is that? They literally can't use AP because they don't have any. Anyway, I'm on my engine boost myself away from here, trying to get out of the initial scout from the carrier and see what's coming down this flank, because as usual, my team lemming trains for now, and nobody wants to go down there. So, although to be fair, that's a bot, I think. Was that a bot? No, we don't have any bots. Can't be a bot. Anyway, we have spotted 2 battleships so far, but I wouldn't be. Yeah, there's the man. I was about to say there has to be a destroyer here. Hello. Not the greatest stealth on these ships, so a couple of torpedoes in the general direction of the Mayan. The torpedoes reload very, very quickly, so Mayan does not smoke up, and honestly I don't want to mess with the Mayan right now. I've got battleships to farm, so let's make sure that as long as he doesn't come down this flank, I don't actually mind too much. Now, I am quite useful in that regard, but I do want to stop the North Carolina and the Amagi there in their tracks before they get in range of the carrier. And I would be quite useful with the radar against the Mayan, but I do have to stop the run here because my team is going very hard on the other flank. So let's drop some torpedoes in the general direction of these two, and make a very visible smoke screen and say hello. The same play style as on, say, the Bliskavice or the regular Swedish destroyers applies. Try to not fire your torpedoes all at once, but just kind of stagger them. Mayan seems to have been driven off, so now we've got the flood on the Amagi. He damacons the flood, and now we try to set the permafire while being under fire from the North Carolina, and they instantly shoot one of my guns off. This is when I was testing with the rapid reload. Okay, Amagi's been driven off. Can't capitalize, unfortunately, on the damage control because Amagi wisely has removed himself. Now we have lost one of our battleships, and I'm not sure. Okay, Tallinn has taken out the Mayan. Nice, well done, Tallinn. So he's taken. Cruiser's paid attention, and I'm just here to keep the North Carolina and the Amagi occupied while my team is pushing the other flank. So let's keep doing that. So a couple more torpedoes out at the North Carolina, and we'll see how much damage we can do to the two. The carrier is leaving me alone, fortunately, and given that the Mayan has been stopped, this means we should be okay to hold this to just hold this flank. And one more torpedo on the North Carolina, and then break. But there you kind of see it that the engines are a little bit lacking on these ships, so you got to be really careful that you're not getting caught with your pants down, because you tend to be a little bit to take a little bit of time to get up to speed. So just want to get, and I actually within secondary range. Okay, can I get the Damacon? I can, but I think that was a little too early. Oh, and he's dodged the torpedoes. Okay, that's fine. I got more torpedoes where these come from, but. I'm going to use my other smoke screen now, and I'm still just keeping these two busy here, because as long as they're just trying to shoot me, and our carrier has vacated the cap, I'm fine with that. I'm just going to plonk away at them and keep them occupied over here, in the corner of the map. So my team might have a chance at capping, but we're one ship down now, so this might be a bit of a taller call. And I am playing in a risky game here. Now the problem obviously is the short torpedo range, because this thing only got... Ow! Yeah, that's the problem with the engines. It's got a very short torpedo range with 6.6 kilometers, so oftentimes you can't really make use of any kind of Damacons. Ow! That must have been a Magi. Did he load the high explosive? That's unusual, but Carrier is now helping out as well. Thanks, Carrier. But Carrier has been found by one of the enemy destroyers, who's been sailing the long way around. And I'm really, at this point, not expecting to survive much longer, which is why I've dropped both torpedoes. So I'm down to 700 hit points, and I'm fully expecting to die here. But Carrier, I think Amagi had a flood on him, so try to hit that one maybe. Anyway, I do need to disengage somewhat and do what I can. I've got 4 guns backwards, so that's actually a relatively large amount of firepower. Fortunately for me, one of the friendly battleships has been paying attention. Do you know it? When the team is joining and is doing good things. And one of our cruisers is capturing, and friendly battleships is coming back and has taken out the enemy North Carolina. Well done. Which means now we just have to take on the Amagi. I've done what I could to hold these two back from getting anywhere near the capture circle and allowing my team to go for it. And the Amagi, fortunately, sees the battleship, does not go for the destroyer, is now on triple permafire, and has some torpedoes incoming, which means there's a flood on the table as well, because I've dumped a whole load into it. There's the flood, and there's the kill. Thank you, North Carolina. It's amazing how well this kind of thing works when the team is joining you. I mean, I probably would have died otherwise. They wouldn't have capped us out, but it's not enough time for it. That's why I was holding them down. But definitely thank you. That was well played. And Carrier is still alive, running away from the enemy destroyer. And we're leading on points. And the Talon is, I think it's the Talon. There was a Talon on our team. Is capping. So good job. And as you can see, we've managed to rack up 85,000 points of damage in this little tier 7 destroyer. So while the torpedoes by themselves don't do an awful lot, the sheer reload and the amount of them that you can spam make it quite viable. Now, you don't quite have the range. And that sort of is where it requires a little bit more skill to play. You don't have the range of the Swedish destroyers, so you have to play a little bit more close up. But in return, you get a really nice amount of firepower on the guns and chance of setting fires. So that was fun, and again, well played to the friendly North Carolina for drawing the fire off me there at the end, and for helping out cleaning up that flank. Couldn't have done it without him. So if we're looking at the amount of damage that we've done, you can see that I've almost done the same amount with guns and torpedoes. So that's quite interesting. Of course, I had 2 battleships to farm, so things don't always work out this way. In this case, we're actually top tier. on Trident in a 6v6, Lyon, Colorado, Ismail, a Coronel Bolognese, a Gallant, and an Ernst Gede. And it's a bot carrier, but obviously bot carriers don't scout, but they still actually launch at target, so you do have to be somewhat careful. As a regular destroyer, as in cap control, you're slightly disadvantaged by the lack of firepower that you have against enemy destroyers, because you can only use high explosive, you can't use the armor piercing. So you're going to end up doing a little bit less damage with the guns. That said, you have a lot of guns in return, and the guns are good. And you still, while you don't have quite the torpedo range, you do have fast torpedoes, and the ships themselves are faster as well. So a slightly different flavor, I would say, to the regular things. So some things usually coming around through that. So I'm going to drop some predictive torps because I have a just over 30-second reload, and we'll park ourselves in the capture circle and see if anyone's coming through there. Sometimes you catch them this way. There's the Ernst Gede, and I think if I had dropped like half a second earlier, he would have run into 2 of my torpedoes. But like this, he has avoided them. And now we're obviously defensive because there is a cruiser behind him, and that is a German destroyer. I don't want to mess with the German destroyer. These things are nasty. Cruiser coming in, carrier coming in as well. The other friendly destroyer here is the Hatsuharu is also not interested, but with both of us taking on the Ernst Gede, he is somewhat disadvantaged because he's also not using his guns really that successfully. So obviously dodging the Hatsuharu torpedoes. Hatsuharu can be free to use my smokescreen if he's so inclined, and because the big threat isn't so much the Gede because he's not using his guns. The big threat is the cruiser behind him there. So Hatsuharu probably should not be going into the capture circle at this point, at least not until we've cleared out the Gede. And he took 1 torp. I thought that went past. So again, not sure why he's not using his guns. I'm not complaining there, he's now dead. But if he was using his guns, that would have been a bit of a different proposition. So Hatsuharu has survived despite his best efforts in the contrary, and is now going up against the Coronel Bolognese, which is a very unhealthy proposition indeed. So we do want to be, at least he's bow in, so that's good. And again, my torpedo range is sort of where it gets a little iffy because, okay, he's going behind the island. Is he really? Yeah, I think he is. So can't use armor piercing. Ow, something just hit me from the other side. That wasn't even the Bolognese, that was something else. But one of the things that you can, yep, there he comes. One of the things that you can do with these destroyers is you can sail away from things and still have a fair amount of guns on target because of the layout. So that is not a bad thing. And I'm going to use my smoke again because of that thing there. I know where you are, but we're now holding the capture circle, so I don't have the pressure to chase after you. And I just want to make sure I don't get blown out of the water. Let's radar him. There he is. Hello. And now that I have reinforcements here, including a battleship, I don't think I'll be needed over here. So we haven't done an awful lot of damage just yet because we've been mostly fighting light forces, and he might run into a torpedo or two. He's played a fair game there, but is really just and he's taken out the Hatsuharu. So well played using the island. And if my torpedoes had been a little bit slower, they wouldn't have caught him there. But I can probably leave that one to those two and head over into B Cup and make myself useful over there. There is a Lyon. Hello, Mr. Lyon. Can't really easily stealth torp, but I got my last heal coming off. I'll just send my torpedoes against the Bolognese to make sure that thing doesn't get away, and then I'll sail out of here because I do not wish to be shot. Now, okay, the Sinop takes him out. Well done, Sinop. Lyon had the high explosive loaded, so that was a wise choice to not sail broadside onto that thing, because that is a lot of high explosive, and that's very nasty. Hello, Mr. Gallant. Did Gallant get a smoke screen? I have no idea. Well, we'll see. For now, he goes undetected, so I'm going to use the radar just to find out which way he's going. And if he has a smoke screen, then I'll have to wait it out. So he is, I mean, he knows that he's radared, so he's not coming around the corner. Or is he? He might. He might come around the corner. Okay, he sent torpedoes out. I'm not sure. Okay, now he's using his smoke screen. So I am going to send torpedoes in the assumption that he's trying to come around the corner. But he's now actually engaging the Luca Tarigo on the other side. So I can get back to shooting at that Leon. And the Gallant if he actually... Oh no, he comes around this way as well. Okay, fire on the Leon. Leon damage controls? Yes, Leon damage controlled. Okay, perfect. Once the Damacon's off cooldown, on cooldown, then we can... and has dodged the Lucas torpedoes. Then we can work on setting permafires. Let's see if we can make that happen. Do a little bit careful with the Gallant here. But he's holding they're holding 2 of the capture circles now, and we're 3 on 3, so this is not over yet. Leon, where are you going? Let's see if I can go undetected. I don't know where Gallant went. I do have to be a little bit wary of Gallant torps. I can't sink the Leon with torpedoes just that easily. Okay, there's the Gallant. Let's predictively go that Leon comes around this way. Now he can see me, so I do have to keep the island between myself and Leon. Gallant is going after the carrier, which is the right thing to do because it's the bot carrier. Anticipation or prediction has worked well on the Leon, so he takes the full side of torpedoes and is now flooding. Is that a perma-flood? That may be a perma-flood. He might still be on cooldown from the damage controlling that single fire earlier. Okay, Leon's taking out the friendly Hiryu, but he is still... Okay, he stopped flooding, so he can one-shot me if he's got HE loaded. But I'm now capping C. We're one down, but we're ahead. No, we're behind on points because the Colorado just killed our Sinop. It's just me left here. So I have to not die, but also kill Leon. Actually, we're holding 2 capture circles. I think I don't have to kill Leon. But let's make sure kill Leon. And then I'm just going to run away because I have 6,000 hit points. That's all I'm ever going to have. Gallant was last seen somewhere north chasing after the carrier. 13 seconds left. I'm just going to run away, keep islands between myself. There's the enemy battleship. Gallant is probably somewhere around here. But I'm just going to sail away from the Gallant potentially, try not to give my position away, and by capping, and there we go. One last hope, and we've managed to win. So, obviously I haven't tested the other ships yet, but the Grom is fun. It's fun in the same way that the Bliskovich is fun, which makes sense because it's the sister ship. All in all, the line is going to be an interesting damage over time spam addition, similar to the Swedish line, with the difference that you'll get smoke screens. The whole things are going to be a bit faster, but in return don't get the same AA as the Swedes. And so no Bofors demonstrator platform for us. But it's an interesting twist. There were a couple of larger ships in there, like French, Italian kind of destroyer leader things. So I'll be trying out how those are playing. But the Tier 7, the Grom, is definitely a very fun ship to play. And I'm kind of curious to see how the rest of the line is going. I will be testing the ships going through the week, so I'll probably be looking at the Tier 8 next. And just got a refill of the level 4 blueprints because I was out. So Tier 8 testing coming up and a review coming up soon on this channel. That's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.